oh, maybe I should just quit or maybe um, this isn't going to work out. Being a smaller company, I felt like if I had a question or had a problem, I could email you and reach out to you. Some of the bigger corporations, I was like, I think I'm just going to be, you know, customer 2087.
Prepared for the FE exam, and then you passed it in your first try, and you did that in 5 months. There are many misconceptions about what it takes to become an engineer, especially the misconception that you need an engineering degree to pass the FE exam. But what if I told you that's not true? Take it from our student Emily. After switching her major from engineering to business, Emily recently graduated with a degree in project management, and then she decided to take her FE exam. But wait, her story gets even better. After putting in hours of hard work and dedication and finding our courses, Emily was able to pass her FE exam on her first try. She is a proof that you can become an engineer no matter what your background is in. Hi, Emily. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kenza.
Awesome. Okay, so I no longer ask students about their background when I interview them because I found out that a lot of students have their engineering degree and they work in the engineering industry and then they want to take the FE to further their career or to get that promotion or take the PE. But with your story, with your background is a little bit different. And so today I kind of want to start that a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? What was your major in college and when did you graduate?
So I started college in the fall of 2017, and I was between like business and engineering, and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I ended up actually starting with mechanical engineering, and I did that for about a year, and then I switched to civil. Um, but then I just needed more freedom and just I needed to do online classes. I did not want to be in person anymore. So I switched to project management, transferred schools. And so I did ended up doing 2 years of engineering and 2 years of business before graduating in the spring of 2021.
Okay. And so when you first did the 2 years in engineering, can you tell us a little bit like which classes did you take? Just so we know which which topics you had to really learn on your own.
I took calculus, a couple physics classes, and statics, and mechanics and materials, and then that would be where I stopped engineering.
Okay. Awesome. Now, so you decided to switch majors because you wanted to be able to work and at the same time go to school and get a degree, and you weren't able to do that with your engineering degree. I know we talked about this a little bit, but you going through that route, you also ended up having less debt, like where a lot of students here in America, when they go to school, they have to pay a lot of money, especially for engineering school, and you kind of switch that and it's allowed you to not have that financial burden. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I found like looking around that a lot of times to go to school for engineering, you have to go to a major university, and usually they're more expensive, and you have to live on campus or get an apartment near campus. Especially for me, I was about a couple hours from a lot of the major universities, and I just didn't want to pay a lot of the high tuition costs, and they also had high lab costs, and then, I mean, rent was going to be somewhere around 2 grand a month, and so that's just it was a lot of added cost, and by going online, I was able to go to an in-state university that was a couple hours away, but live at home, which was a big factor.
Okay. All right. Now, fast forward like a year later, and this whole time when you were getting your degree, you were working in the engineering industry?
Yes, I started, I think it was the summer of 2019 in my first engineering internship.
Wow. Okay. So so you got that job with no engineering background, like in terms of like school.
I just finished my second year of engineering, and I started my internship. And then while at my internship, that's when I started transitioning to business.
Okay. Now, in 2021, is that when you decided to take your FE?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about why did you decide to take your FE?
I was still working in the engineering industry, and I found that I really did enjoy it. Once I found kind of my field that I wanted to be in, I found out that I just loved it, and that's what I wanted to do. And I also found being younger and new to the industry that I had to prove that I had some knowledge in engineering. And of course, I mean, even if you do have an education in engineering, it's always good to take the FE. So, but that was my main reason. I was like, I got to prove that I understand engineering and I know it. So that's why I decided to study for the FE and get my EIT just as like a way to show everyone while looking for new jobs that hey, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you graduated like with a business major, and you work in the industry, in the engineering industry, and then you decided to take your FE. How did you find out that you can actually take the FE without having an engineering degree?
Well, I remember when I was at the university for engineering, that would have been my sophomore year of college. They were already like mentioning it. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind, but I didn't really realize it until I had a coworker. He was my boss and he said, "Hey, when are you taking the FE?" And I was just like, "What?" Like I didn't know I could. So then that's when it sparked me to realize, "Oh, I need to go take this like now."
Right. Okay. Now, so you started, so your boss tells you you can actually take the FE. So where did you start from there? I mean, looking at your background, you took a couple calculus classes, physics, statics, and mechanics of materials. You probably took a look at the specifications. Did you feel stressed, nervous? Were you like, oh my God, like I don't know all these subjects? Like how did you even get started with that journey?
At first I just started like Googling like FE resources and everything and a bunch of different companies popped up. At first I was like, oh well maybe I can like find free resources and practice exams and just kind of do it on my own. So I started that I started that a little bit earlier. And then I kind of realized I was in over my head. I was like, wow, there's a lot to learn. I cannot just piece together free resources. Like, that's not going to be my route. And then I think I stumbled upon your Instagram page, I think. And I was like, oh, like these seem like fun little videos and they seem like educational. And that's when I found your course. And I was like, okay, I need help. I need like step by step studying.
Yeah. What do you think you struggled with the most when you were preparing for your FE?
I would say definitely focusing. Um, I have never been one just to love to sit at a desk. So sitting down and just putting in those hours and studying was definitely difficult for me. Topic specific, definitely structural.
Mm, okay. Did you feel like did you find it like difficult to study some subjects on your own?
I would say yes, but um, I never really questioned it. Like it wasn't an option of, oh, maybe I should just quit or maybe um, this isn't going to work out. Like it was just, okay, well, I'm going to have to spend a couple more hours on this week. But I don't think it was ever something that was like, okay, well, I can't do this.
Hmm. You felt like it's like almost like you didn't look at it where it's like, oh, I'm like a business major, maybe I can do this, maybe I can't do this. Because even earlier when I asked you when you started this journey, were you like feeling nervous about like covering subjects that you've never learned in school? And I don't think that ever, like, it didn't even cross your mind. Like you were like,
It,
let me see if I can do this on my own. So it's like for you, it's
yeah,
like you didn't let that limit you, and you're like, it doesn't matter what my background is, I can do this. And it would, like you said, it was an option. And I think that's very powerful thing to have. um
yeah, I definitely like going into it, I never questioned, will I not pass? Like, will I be able to pass? It was, when am I passing? I was like,
mm,
okay, I might have to take a couple times. Maybe after a third time, we'll reevaluate the situation. But I was just like, we're gonna pass. It's just a matter of when.
wow. Okay. Earlier you mentioned that you found us through Instagram, and then from there you watch our YouTube videos, and then
Mhm.
you invested in our course, which is quite a bit of money. Um, so why did you decide to go with enGENIEer? Why did you, and not, another course? Why did you decide to get our morning and afternoon bundle course?
Um, I never questioned doing either morning or afternoon. It was always gonna be the whole bundle because I knew I needed it without my traditional schooling. Um, I would say the biggest thing was also the lectures, like those interactive lectures. Looking at the other ones, they seemed like they were gonna be like packets of questions and just a lot of review questions, which is great if maybe if you went to school for it, but and like just need a refresher. But I was like I need the full instruction on how to do these problems. And I just felt like, especially with being a smaller company, I felt like if I had a question or had a problem, I could email you and reach out to you. Some of the bigger corporations, I was like, I think I'm just going to be, you know, customer 2087 instead of like, oh, hey, that's Emily. She needs help with this. Like she's struggling with structural.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that we try to do is just like provide this, I think, the step-by-step solution to the problems. And I think guiding students through that, I think that's really important because that's what you're doing during the exam. You're literally solving problems. And so you got to make sure that you understand the steps. And I think that's really something important to have. Um, let's talk a little bit about your schedule. Before you started studying, did you have in mind how much time it was going to take you to study for the FE?
I wasn't really sure because I saw a lot of other of your students, like their testimonials. It was like, oh, 3 months or 4 months. And I saw you advertising, hey, you're FE in 3 months or 4 months. And I was just like, okay, that seems a little quick. We'll just like add a couple months on, especially because a lot of these, like looking at the testimonials, like a lot of these people went to school for engineering are working in the field. Maybe they're years and years out of school, but they still did it and they're working in the field. So they just are still a little bit more of a refresher. And I was just like, okay, well, we'll just like add on a couple months and see how this goes. Um, I definitely took a little while to schedule my exam because I wasn't sure what the timeline would be. Um, but I was like determined to get it done by the end of the year. So that was my key.
Yeah. And so you ended up adding 2 months, right? So you took a total of 5 months. So you did
Mhm.
it, you prepared for the FE exam, and then you passed it in your first try, and you did that in 5 months, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say that. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty incredible what you did. And I think it's amazing that you were able to just look, okay, these students did it in 3 months, I'm gonna try to see if I can do it in 5 months. But I also think like with you, it's like you tried not to focus so much on passing, and you like, let me just see what I can do and how much I can learn, take the exam, and then reassess from there. And I think that helps a lot sometimes to go into the exam with that mindset, so you don't feel that much pressure of having to pass. Now, I know you mentioned earlier that one of the things that you struggled with the most was time, just like focus, studying for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and how much time did you study during the week? And were you able to like work on your focus? And what did you do to improve that?
I definitely gave myself a lot of breaks while studying, which I think was good because I was able to study longer, but also bad because during the exam you can't just, oh, I'm gonna just take a break, like so that might have been a little bit good and bad decision to do, but um basically I think I would start studying around 6 or 7 at night, study for a couple hours, maybe take a little bit of a break, maybe study for another hour, go to sleep, go to work the next day. And then on the weekends, Saturday morning, I would definitely spend a few hours, pretty much all morning, all the way up through lunch and maybe a little bit in the afternoon, depending on the day, like just studying.
And then when you say a break, what would you usually do during that break?
Literally anything, just relax,
Yeah.
scroll on
Okay.
my phone, just completely forget about what I was doing. I just needed a break from all the information I was taking in.
Right. Were you able to take like a full practice exam where you sit for 6 hours and then do it? Were you able to do that?
I took one, and it was 2 days before my exam, and I completely tanked. It was it was bad, and I would say about an hour left, I was just like, "I can't sit any longer, I can't think any longer, I don't know any of these topics."
Wow.
So, yeah, I don't know if I really sat for a whole exam until the day of.
Did you struggle with that during the exam? Just having that long focus?
I definitely think a little bit, especially towards the end. I didn't start mine till 11 AM, so it was getting kinda late in the day by the time I finished. Um, but it wasn't really a question, like, I never thought like, "Ugh, man, I can't sit here any longer." It was like, "I have to sit here. I have to take the exam. I gotta finish."
Yeah. Yeah, because we had another student, Rosa, who's not able to sit for a long time and do the practice exam for that long. And we had a couple students who would, what they would do is just like split it in 2 days. They would just take half of the practice exam on Saturday, and then the other half they would finish it on Sunday. Or they would just like split it during the week. They would literally just do like 20 problems a day of the practice exam and still time themselves and then just kind of add up all the time instead of just doing it
Mhm.
all at once. And just kind of like that helped them a little bit to just kind of get ready for the exam environment. And then I think it's like when you get to the exam, you don't have a choice, because when you're doing it at
Yeah.
home it's different. You know, you're gonna try, but you still have a choice to go like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop, I'm gonna finish this later. But I think
Mhm.
during the exam you get this interesting like energy. Like I remember when I took my exam, at the end of it I was getting tired, and then at the end of the exam I actually got the flu. I literally got high fever, and but during the exam I didn't even feel it, and I was just like just powering through it, right? So it's like you have this energy where
Yeah.
it's like you don't know where it comes from, like you don't even think about it. You just have to do it. And I think so. The reason I'm sharing this is just for the students who are watching. If you do have you struggling with that focus and just studying for long hours, it's okay. Just try to do the best you can, and in the
Mhm.
exam you'll have this awesome energy where you wouldn't struggle with it, and then you would just power through your exam. um, okay, so if a student comes to you who's in the same situation as you, he doesn't have an engineering background, and they want to take their FE exam, what would you say to them? If you can list 3 things that really helped you pass your FE exam, what would be those 3 things?
I think having a strong foundation in math and physics really helped me. I think if
Mm,
you don't, it might take a little bit more time, but those that strong foundation I think really helped me. Um, Another one is definitely have the mindset of like, "Oh, will I pass?" No, it's when will I pass? Like, "Oh, will it be 6 months from now? Will it be 3 months from now? A year from now? Who knows, but I will pass. Just a matter of time." Um, and I think another one I, didn't really realize I was doing at the time, but I'm glad I did, was I didn't really tell anyone I was studying for it, because I noticed that in some situations, um, at, like, work and stuff, various places I worked, you would have supervisors kind of asking a lot, like, "Hey, are you studying?" Or, "How's this part going?" and everything, and nobody knew I was, and because I had a business degree, I don't think anyone was expecting me to, which
mm,
was really nice because no one asked me, and then one day I was just like, "Hey, I got my EIT," and, like, I think that took the pressure off of myself because no one was really asking, like, my family knew and close friends knew, but then that was it, and I think
wow.
that really helped.
Wow. Okay. So when you went to your boss and you're like, "Hey, I got my AIT," or when you told your coworkers, what was their
Yeah.
reaction?
They were so stunned. They were so happy for me, though. They were so surprised. They're like, "I didn't know you were studying," and I was like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I didn't tell you for a reason. I wanted to do this on my own." But, yeah, they were so happy for me and just so surprised.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it helps not telling, especially people at work, that you're studying for it, just because,
Mhm.
like you said, it does add that little pressure. Because then it's like if you fail, oh, then you have to tell anybody, "Oh, didn't make it," and you just like this awkward conversation. And so it's like, if it's not required by your job, and then you just just study, don't tell them, and just tell them when you pass. So that way you don't feel that pressure. I kind of like that one.
I just remember being at one of my jobs, and there was, like, a few people studying for their PE, and the week that the results came out when the results came out, everyone was like, "Oh, did you open your results? Did you find out?" And everyone's like, "No," or and then the next day, they had to say, "Yeah, I found out, I failed." And, like, 3 people failed in the office, and it was like someone died that day, like, everyone was silent, and it was awkward and just like you can just feel the tension in the air, and I was like, "Why is it such a big deal? Like, you'll just pass next time, it's fine." Like, I don't know, that's why I was like, "I'm not telling anyone."
Yeah. So that happened before you took your FE?
Mhm.
Oh, that's smart. You
This
were
was
like,
like a this was probably a couple of years before, and I was just like, "Oh my," like, when I take my FE or my PE, no one will know.
yeah. Yeah. That's smart. That's really smart.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the day of your exam. So you're going to the center, you're driving, feeling stressed, nervous. How were you feeling?
I was definitely stressed. I had about an hour and a half drive to my exam center. So I went up there early because I was like, "Oh, I do not wanna get stuck in traffic or something. That would be awful. I don't wanna stress out that." So I got up there really early in the morning and just kinda hung around in a coffee shop and reviewed questions, and then I
Mm.
realized I can't focus. I There's no more reviewing, there's no more studying happening. So I just went shopping, and then I got to the testing center. My test started at 11, and I just I don't think I had any emotions at that point. I think I was just so, like, numb, like, I was just like, "Okay, this is happening, like, let's go."
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Did you have a strategy in when you were answering questions, or were you just trying to answer all the questions?
I actually remember I watched a lot of your videos right before about, like, day of exam, day before exam, all that kinda stuff, and I remember you saying, like, when you took your FE that the first, like, 5 or 7 questions or something you didn't know, and you were getting nervous. So I kinda kept that in the back of my mind, and I remember the first probably 5 questions, I had no clue. They were,
Wow.
like, graphing and statistics and, like, just more like, obscure math questions that I did not know. So I just kept skipping through them, and I finally got to one that I knew and 2 I knew, and that, like, kind of built my confidence up, and then I kind of went back to what I didn't think I knew, but then it started to, like, flow. So
Yeah.
I, like, skip to an easy question, build my confidence, and then go back and realize, "Oh, I knew this, like, I can do this."
Yeah. I think you said it. It's getting into that flow, into that zone. And at first it's
Mhm.
hard to get into it because you're a little bit nervous and you're shaking
Yeah.
and like, oh my God, this is really happening. And then you get a question which could be like medium, it's not that difficult, but like
Yeah.
it requires a little bit of time and you're like, oh shoot, like I don't remember this. And so then you start like getting even more nervous. And I think you just have to skip it and get to the
Mhm.
easy one like you did. I can't believe you had that experience. I had exactly like that was exactly what happened to me when I took my FE exam. That's awesome.
Yeah, I
Um,
just remember, like, keeping that in my brain. I was like, "You know what? We're just gonna skip till we find one really easy, and we'll
yeah,
work from there."
yeah. And then what was your strategy after that one? Did you flag any hard questions or would you just like solving everything?
I definitely flagged everything. I remember hearing this advice, I think back in high school, was like, "If you don't know the answer or how to answer it in, like, the first 30 seconds, keep going." And that's something I kept like, I would read the question, think about it for a minute, don't know what to do with it right now, and I move on because I felt like the more I got into the test, things kept coming back to me. Um,
Yeah.
or a future question would trigger how to do the past question. So I would just, "Oh, don't know it, next, don't know it, next." I probably answered only half the questions, and then at the end went back through all of them again, and even the ones that I didn't know how to solve but were harder, I skipped because I knew they were gonna take longer. So I did all the easy ones, quick ones, and then went back to the hard ones I knew, and then at the very end did the hard ones that I had no clue, and just tried to take an educated guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. Now, how do you feel that you were able to pass your FE exam on your first try?
I was so shocked. I was at work and well, back up. About a week or 2 after my exam, I already scheduled my next exam. Um, So I took it December 23rd, and I had my next one scheduled for February 14th, because it was the, like, quickest one. And I was like I got my results at work, I got the email that, "Hey, you're ready to look at them," and I was like, "Oh, do I wanna look at them?" And I was like, "You know what? I'm prepared to fail. I have my next exam already set up. We've already started studying. It's gonna be fine. Like, I failed. It's fine. I already started prepping." And I opened them and it said pass. And I was on my phone and I was like, this is wrong. I, I logged into someone else's account. Like, this is not it. So I went on the computer, logged on. It said pass. And I was just like, well, does pass mean pass? Or like, what does pass mean? Like, I
Right.
literally started questioning everything. I was like, this is not right.
Why did you feel like you weren't gonna pass? What made you think that you weren't gonna pass?
First of all, I tanked my practice exam that was from NCES, 2 days before. So I think I got like a 30 overall. So I was like, okay, well, we didn't pass. And then I was in the exam and like when I walked out, I was literally laughing. I was like, I don't know what just happened. Like, wait, no clue what just happened.
That's interesting. Like, how much fill in blanks questions, if you remember, how much of those did you have? Was it like 20, 30% of the exam was fill in the blanks?
Probably. I mean, in the moment, it felt like all of them, but I know that's definitely not it.
Right.
But in the moment, I was like, oh, they're all fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Um, But I would definitely say it was a little bit more than I expected, and the one thing I remember is they didn't tell me where to round off to. So
Mm.
I never saw anyone talk about where you round off to. So in the exam, there's just something I never thought about during the studying process, and when I got there, I was like, "Wait, where do I round off to? I have no clue." So that kinda
Right.
scared me a little bit too. I was like, I
Yeah.
might have had the right answer, but rounded it off incorrectly.
There's that margin I think they have. So even if you're like off by 1 or 2 points, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
But I'm glad you kind of shared that with us because it's like, yeah, it's like how do you do that? So during the exam, not knowing that, that might have been like, you'd be like, whoa, what do I do here? Right? It will take you a minute to think about it versus
yeah.
like if you kind of already were prepared for it. So that would have thrown you off. Wow. Okay. What's the number one piece of advice you'd give other students who are right now going through the same situation as you?
I know it's hard, but just relax. Like I said, it's not if you pass, it's when you pass.